Akhandam Satchidanandam Avang Manasagocharam Atmanam Akhiladharam Ashrayebhishta Siddhaye. I take refuge in the self, which is the indivisible, the existence, consciousness, bliss absolute, beyond the reach of words and thought, the substratum of all, for the attainment of my cherished desire. So that's the invocation. We are studying Vedantasara, and what do we have so far? It was told that the way of teaching Advaita Vedanta is Adhyaropa Apavada, which is the method of superimposition and desuperimposition. And that's what's going on now. The method of superimposition. What does it mean, superimposition and desuperimposition? That is, first we make an error that instead of the rope, you see the snake and think it's a snake. So that's called superimposition. It's adhyaropa. Why should we make it at all? Why make an error? We're not making an error. We already made it. That's the problem. We are already in the midst of it, and we are seeking a way out. And the way out is to be shown by Advaita Vedanta. Why can't it be told directly? Because we won't see it. Because if you say, look, snake, if you say, look, it's a rope. What is a rope? Where is a rope? How is it a rope? I am seeing a snake. So the only way of showing me the rope would be to show how from a rope we make an error about a snake and how that snake is really a rope. There itself, where you are making the error, where you are seeing a snake, look carefully, there itself, you will see it's not a snake, it's a rope. So that's called the method of superimposition and desuperimposition. It's not really what you think is the world, body, mind, samsara. Not really body, world, body, mind, samsara. It is Brahman, existence, consciousness, bliss. So that's the process. I think everybody has to be muted. Yes. So that's the process. And in this process, what is going on now is that we have the process of superimposition. Adhyaropa is being shown to us. First was introduced the reality, Brahman, which is like the rope. In the example, like the rope, Brahman. Brahman is that, what is Brahman? Existence, awareness, and bliss. Infinite being, awareness, isness, awareness is Brahman. Non-dual. Non-dual means other than that, there is nothing. This is the reality. Whatever is other than that is an appearance. This is the basic teaching of Advaita Vedanta. Brahma Satyam Jagat Mithya. Brahman alone is the reality. If you are seeing anything other than Brahman, if you think that there is anything other than Brahman, what you think or see other than Brahman is an appearance. It's not real. It's ultimately what you are seeing is like the snake and the rope. The snake is not real. It is actually a rope. The world appearance is not real in itself. It is actually Brahman. So we are introduced to Brahman. And now the question of explaining this appearance. If you introduce the rope, you have to show how it is appearing as the snake. If you introduce Brahman, how is this Brahman appearing as samsara? So first we were introduced to Maya. After Brahman, Maya. And what is Maya? We were told it is made of three, Sattva, Rajas, and Tamas. It is neither real like Brahman, but not totally unreal because it produces this appearance. This whole experience of the world is produced by Maya. Then we were told Maya, Brahman is indivisible. There is no whole or part, little bits of Brahman, more Brahman, less Brahman, nothing like that. It is one and not two. But Maya can be divided. It is divisible. So there is a totality and a part. You can divide it into infinitesimally any number of parts. Now the same Brahman associated with Maya or limited by Maya is called Saguna Brahman or Ishvara or the God of religion. So in English, it will be two terms we have been introduced to. One is the absolute reality, Brahman, and one is the God of religion. So you can already see the God of religion is not the ultimate reality in Advaita Vedanta. So the God of religion is Saguna Brahman or Ishvara, which is the absolute in association with, in association limited by, I am using the term upadhi, which is appearing through. Now, in association with parts of Maya, the same Brahman, the same absolute is the Jiva, like us, each of us. So this is where for the first time we can hook into something that, all right, it's us, but what kind of experience? What are they talking about? Us in deep sleep. When we are in deep sleep, we are there in a seed form. We as individuals, our individuality is there in a seed form, but it's in a potential form. That is called pragya. That was introduced. Same Brahman, limited by avidya, which is a part of Maya. What else was introduced? Maya has two kinds of powers: the veiling power and the projecting power. Avarana Shakti, Vikshepa Shakti. The veiling power hides Brahman from us. When we look out into the world, we see forms, hear sound, smell, taste, touch. No Brahman anywhere, nothing, no absolute reality. When we look into ourselves, person, with its body, mind, and all sorts of problems and issues, no Brahman. I don't see this Satchidananda anywhere, whether within myself or outside, neither in the subject nor in the object. This is called the veiling power of Maya. Because of the veiling power of Maya, the veiling power of ignorance, just like being ignorant of the rope, we see the snake. So not knowing that it's a rope is veiling power of ignorance. And projecting the snake, error, that is the projecting power of ignorance. Similarly, not knowing Brahman, one, then Brahman itself is projected as this universe, as samsara. Maya is time, space, and causation, desha, kala, nimitta. Same Brahman appearing through Maya seems to be extended in space, passing through time, and connected with through causation or the law of karma, one thing leading to another. So this is what's going on. All right, now let's go ahead. What's going to happen from now on? The projecting power will have full play, and we will see how the whole universe emerges from Brahman plus Maya because of the projecting power of Maya. We are given the nice example of the spider, which explained how Brahman is the cause of the universe. Remember, which Brahman is the cause of the universe? It's a strange question to ask. Which Brahman? Isn't there only one, Swami? Yes, there is only one Brahman, no doubt. But that Brahman alone, in association with Maya, is called Saguna Brahman. Para, apara. Apara means the lower or the inferior Brahman. And that lower Brahman, God, is the cause of this universe. What kind of cause? Material cause or the efficient cause? Upadana karana, nimitta karana. You discussed these terms last time. According to Vedanta, Brahman is both upadana and nimitta karana. Brahman is abhinna nimitta upadana karana of Jagat, is the one indivisible material and efficient cause of this universe. From the perspective, just like a spider, from its own perspective means, what's a spider's perspective? Of an individual sentient being, of a single living being. As an individual sentient being, it is the efficient cause of this web. From its own body, the spider's own body, the spider itself is the material cause of the web. What is the web made of? The spider's own body, parts of the body, secretions. And spider is the efficient or intelligent cause of the web, the designer of the web or the creator of the web. Similarly, Saguna Brahman, Ishvara, is the abhinna nimitta upadana karana. From the perspective of Ishvara, nimitta karana, efficient cause of the universe. From the perspective of Maya, which is the power of Ishvara, it is the upadana karana. Upadana karana means the material cause. So ultimately, if you say, what is this world made of from a Vedantic perspective? Say atoms, subatomic particles, and energy, and quarks and superstrings, fine. But what are they made of? Ultimately, it will be they're all made of Maya, Sattva, Rajas, Tamas. So every half-educated or maybe even illiterate villager in India will say sab Maya hai, and is absolutely right. Sab Maya hai means this actually all of it is made of Maya. In the same, for example, in the sense that in our dreams, if you say everything you see in the dream and everybody you see in the dream, including your own body there in the dream, is made of your mind, the dreamer's mind. Right. What else would I need to say before we go on? So now this whole universe, how it emerges, a cosmology will be given. Remember, this cosmology which will be given, it's not unfamiliar. The 5 elements, space, water, fire, water, and all of that. Space, air, fire, water, earth, combinations of that, producing the body and the mind and all of this, an external universe. This is entirely borrowed cosmology, borrowed from the prevailing ideas about the universe at that time. My point here is, we are not going to do a scientific description of the universe. What you will see now is a model of the universe which comes up, and it's a very nice model. But don't try to compare it with, say, modern physics, modern particle physics, or modern cosmology. Not necessary. Remember the purpose. The purpose here is, it's going to give us a way back to our realization, to our self. It is adhyaropa apavada, superimposition, desuperimposition. Is any of this to be taken seriously? Ultimately, in Advaita Vedanta, only Brahman is to be taken seriously. You are Brahman. And this is laying out a path for us to realize that we are Brahman. So why I'm saying this is, it's a methodology. So why I'm saying this is that if somebody says, I don't like all this old, obsolete, fire, water, air, what is all this? I have got much better, physics and cosmology. Advaita Vedanta would be perfectly all right. Okay, go ahead. That's very nice. You have a much better understanding of the constituents of this universe. Fine, you take up your cosmology. But only one thing, one senior Swami told me, this is my point of view. Traditional Advaitin will not agree. Traditional Pandit, if you say that I'm going to get rid of your Akasha, Vayu, Agni, and I'm going to, fire, air, water, I'm going to plug in super strings, string theory, traditional Pandit will not agree. Says, no. Why they will not agree? There's a reason also. Because this cosmology is based on the Upanishads and based on the Vedas. So they will not deviate from that. But what allows me to deviate from it? Why should I, as an Advaitin, agree to modern cosmology? Because of this escape clause. The fine print says, don't take it seriously. It's part of a methodology. So if anything else, any other part works well, you can plug it in. You can take out this part and plug and play. You can bring in another component and put it in there, and it will work. Only one senior Swami warned me. He said, see, these 5 elements cosmology, which is going to begin now, this is based on the Upanishads. So if you get rid of this and try to bring in something else, you are deviating from the Upanishads. And remember, Vedanta is an interpretation of the Upanishads. So that one thing you are moving away from that. Second thing is, in this methodology, the way back to Brahman is very easy. It's very clearly seen. How it emerges from Brahman and back to Brahman, you'll see. But if you take up a scientific methodology, it's basically a materialist methodology, a materialist cosmology, then there's no clear way back to Brahman. And even there it can be done, but you will have to think about it yourself. All right, this is just an aside from a modern perspective. At Harvard, I met Brian Greene, the very famous cosmologist. He's well known for his series PBS, Elegant Universe. He's a cosmologist here at Columbia. So he was releasing his new book, the Until the End of Time. It's his new book on cosmology. It's more philosophy than physics, if you read that book. And there he mentions Vedanta. And he says, my elder brother is, when I came up to dressed like this, he was so happy to see me. He says, my elder brother is a monk, and a Hindu monk. And he says, I have to have debates with him. He used to bring up these ideas from the Vedas, from the Upanishads, and I would debate it from the point of view of science. So I said, what is your conclusion? I said, my conclusion is that these are, he didn't tell me this, it's in the book. These are like poetical echoes of the discovery or what has been said in the Vedas. So what is said in the Vedas are like poetical echoes of modern science. What is said in the Vedas is not mathematics or not physics as we understand it today, but certainly it's very compatible. They are not. They seem to be saying the same thing. That much he said. So That's interesting to know. A traditional Pandit would be dismissive, would say that, look, it's all Maya, don't worry about it. Swami Vivekananda was not dismissive. Remember, he actually wanted to find out a reconciliation between Sankhyan cosmology and modern physics. And he had a long dialogue, running dialogue with Nikola Tesla about it. But of course, physics was not advanced enough at that time. No conclusion came of it. Okay. Having said all that, let's now get into building up a universe. We have a lot of work ahead to build the universe. This point ahead, I will move fast. Remember, this is what we're going to talk about now is not the central focus of Advaita Vedanta. It is just world building so that we'll be comfortable, we will understand, all right, so Vedanta is talking about us and this world as we see it. Now, how do we find out Brahman in our experience? That will be the other part of it. And also remember, this is an introductory book. It's a book of definitions. So too much discussion, too much debating, too much explanation also will not be given. It just gives us the building blocks so that we can go into the actual texts, the Upanishads themselves later on. Okay. Verse number 57. I think we are done up to 56. Not verse, text number 57. Tamah pradhana vikshepa shaktimad ajnana upahita chaitanyad akasha akashad vayu vayor agni agner apa adbhyah prithvi chautpadyate etasmadatmanah akasha sambhuta ityadi shrutehe. Translation. So I'm on text number 57. Translation. From consciousness associated with the projecting power of ignorance, which has a preponderance of the quality of darkness, has evolved Akasha, which in turn has produced air, from air has come fire, from fire water, and from water earth. As in such Shruti passages, from this self has evolved Akasha. Taittiriya Upanishad 2.1.1. So I will go to the quotation first. The whole thing, he has borrowed it from the Upanishads. It is not, I mean, at the risk of repeating myself, it's not a scientific investigation into our universe. He's borrowed it from the Upanishads. If I quote from the Upanishad, matter will become clear. What is he trying to say here? So this is from Taittiriya Upanishad, the second chapter or Valli, called Brahmananda Valli. So very inspiring, wonderful, just in one paragraph. The most profound philosophy has been packed into it. Whole of Advaita Vedanta can be seen as just unpacking this paragraph, one stanza. In fact, the first sentence itself is the whole of Advaita Vedanta. What am I talking about? Taittiriya Upanishad, Brahmananda Valli, 2.1.1 of Taittiriya Upanishad. So, Brahma vidapnoti param, the knower of Brahman attains the highest. That is Advaita Vedanta. It's not in the book. Don't look at the book. So I'm quoting from the Upanishad. The knower of Brahman attains the highest. Brahmavid apnoti param. Look, three things have been introduced already. Brahman, knowing Brahman, and the final goal, attaining the highest. Brahman, the reality. What is to be done? You have to know Brahman. And what will be the result? Attains the highest. So that is the first line of the Taittiriya Upanishad, second chapter. Then the rest of the passage is explanation of that line. So what goes on there? Tasmad etad abhyukta satyam jnanam anantam brahma yo veda nihitam guhayam parame vyoman so ashnute sarvan kaman saha brahmana vipaschiteti tasmad va etasmad atmana akasha sambhuta akashad vayu vayoragni agnerapa adbhyah prithvihi. So what does it say? The knower of Brahman attains the highest. What is Brahman? What is knowing Brahman? How do you know Brahman? And what is the highest? All those are answered. What is Brahman? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahman is infinite existence consciousness. So I have a full talk on this, defining God. So it's really excellent, that one simple definition how you can unpack it to realize, to understand what the absolute is, and even to realize it. Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. Brahman is the infinite existence consciousness. Then, how do you know this Brahman? Yo Veda Nihitam Guhayam Parame Vyoman. You have to find out in the sacred space in your heart. Basically, you have to realize, I am Brahman. Then what do you get? What is the final achievement of all of this exercise? So Ashnute Sarvan Kaman Saha Brahmana Vipaschireti. One who realizes I am Brahman attains total fulfillment of all desires. Everything that one could have wanted, one will attain. Not that you will get your Christmas list, that you are making a long Christmas list, all these things I will get. No. What we are seeking for in life, a child making Christmas list of presents he or she wants, or even most wise professor at Harvard making a list of the award he wants to win and the publication he wants to do, all of it, whatever we do in human life, all the pursuits we have in human life, we are all looking for fulfillment through it. And that fulfillment is possible not through these pursuits, but ultimately through realizing that you are Brahman. So Ashnute Sarvan Kaman Saha. At once, all desires of the heart are fulfilled in that sense. Now, suppose at this point somebody says, that's fine, but I don't understand how to realize this Brahman. You said realize this in the sacred space of the heart. How? So from this point onwards, the rest of the chapter, the second chapter of Taittiriya Upanishad, it launches into a method of showing us how to realize I am Brahman, which we shall see all in details when we go to Taittiriya Upanishad, hopefully by the grace of God in the years ahead. The method is all well known to us. Anybody who has done Vedanta, we know this method. It is called the method of the 5 sheaths, Panchakosha Viveka. To begin that, it shows how the universe has emerged from Brahman. Adhyaropa, the superimposition. Tasmad va etasmad atmana. From this Brahman, which is none other than your Atman. Which Brahman? Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahman. Infinite consciousness existence. That is your own Atman. From that has emerged what? Akasha, space. Vayu, air. From Akasha comes air. From air comes water, fire. From fire comes water. From water comes earth. From these 5 elements comes this entire universe, and down to our physical bodies as living beings. So that's what will be said. And then from this physical body back to Brahman. From the Annamaya, Pranamaya, Manomaya, Vijnanamaya, Upanishad will show that. So that's for later. That's the Taittiriya Upanishad. He has just used that line, that from the Atman emerges space. Suppose somebody asks, you just said Brahman is existence, consciousness, bliss, being and awareness. How does space emerge from that? What is the connection? So it's very interesting. What is space is a matter of investigation, not only in modern physics and cosmology, but also in ancient Indian philosophy. A wonderful work has been done there. All it means is Satchidananda alone, being awareness alone, with the help of Maya, appears as space. Yeah. The appearance is of space, of Akasha, and the name is given space. And it is Vyavahara. It can be, it gives, whatever space does, the function, that also appears. It is actually Satchidananda. It is actually the rope, but now appears as the snake. With the name snake, with the appearance of a snake, with the properties of a snake. Actually, is there a snake? Is there actually the properties of a snake? No. Actually, is there Akasha? No. It is Brahman alone. Akasha is Brahman alone, but appearing in this way. That's why in some forms of Hindu worship, God or Shiva, for example, is worshipped as space. Instead of a Shivalinga, you will find a space there. Just space, that is Brahman. Sometimes it is worshipped as fire. Not that fire is being worshipped. It is existence consciousness appearing as fire, which is being worshipped. So Akasha, first emergence is of Akasha, then it is Vayu, air, so all of these have their own properties, own forms, qualities and names. So it says the projecting power, Vikshepa Shakti, Maya with its projecting power, using more of tamas. So remember, Maya is made of sattva, rajas, tamas, qualities of lightness and dynamism and inertness. Tamas is darkness, inertness, heaviness. Because matter is comparatively inert compared to our minds and compared to consciousness itself. Matter is inert. It is does not seem to be aware. So he says the cause of matter must be inert, must be tamasic. So by using the tamasic aspect of Maya, the projecting power, Vikshepa Shakti, projects Brahman itself. Chaitanya from consciousness itself emerges space. If it's difficult to understand how a solid universe, including fire, water, earth, space, all of it can come from consciousness, it's very easy to see how we do it when, we all do it in our dreams. A dream world where there are chairs and tables and tigers and plants and animals, activity, all of it is going on. All of it has come from mind, from the, it's an appearance of the mind. So from consciousness alone, through Maya, which part of Maya? The projecting power. Using what? The tamasic quality of Maya, tamas, comes akasha, space. From akasha comes vayu, air. From air comes fire. From fire comes water. From water comes earth, and so on. And according to, where did you get all this? From the Taittiriya Upanishads, Shruti, from the text of the Taittiriya Upanishad. This is, of course, a common cosmology in the ancient world, not only in the Upanishads, but also in all forms of Indian philosophy, in China, in Greece, most ancient people. It's quite easy to see why they would think that. If you look out, today I was walking in the Central Park. It was very cold. It is in the 30s. And so I was looking out, and there weren't people around. And the lake is freezing, beginning to freeze slowly. So I noticed, I was just thinking about the 5 elements. Yes, it's very obvious. You see the vast sky, akasha, and the wind blowing across, vayu. And there is water in front of me, apa. Just the fire element seemed to be a little less today. It's so cold. And here I am standing, and here is the body. It seems to be more earthy, more physical. So a very simple sketch of the universe is these 5 elements, if you take that. Just one thing, I just described it in that way. Remember, when they're talking about the 5 elements here, they're not talking about the earth and the wind and the fire and the sky, which we see. Not at all. They're talking about something very subtle here, which will be mentioned later on. What we see in the universe, that will be produced soon. And that will come a little later. It's not yet what we see as earth and fire and water and so on and so forth. Now, let us move ahead. 58, text number 58. Teshu jadyadhikya darshanat tamah pradhanyam tat karanasya tadanim sattva rajas tamangsi karana guna prakramena teshu akashadi utpadyante. Translation. On account of the preponderance of inertia observed in them, their cause also must have an excess of the quality of tamas. At that time, the qualities of sattva, rajas, and tamas are reproduced in ether, etc., in accordance with the law that the qualities of the cause determine the qualities of the effect. Very simple, actually. What are they talking about? So you just said the material universe has been produced from the tamas aspect of Maya. Why? So he says there's a rule. Whatever you see in the effect must have its root in the cause. Something we see in the world, material world, the cause also must be some material thing. We see matter and energy, so the cause also must be matter and energy. You see inertia, heaviness, inertness in matter. So the cause also must have inertia, or like tamas. That's why. Teshu jadya adhikya. Jadya means jadata, inertness. In matter, we see more of inertness compared to mind, compared to sensory activity, mind, and of course consciousness. Tamah pradhanyam tat karanasya. The cause of matter must also be prepared, mostly tamas. Why mostly? Because Maya is always sattva, rajas, tamas. All three must always be present. Even when there is more tamas, there must be a tiny bit of sattva and rajas involved there also, all the time. And then he says, Tadanim sattva rajas tamangsi karana guna prakramena. Now all these 5 elements are produced. There also there is sattva, rajas, and tamas, but in Akasha there will be a little, it's all tamasic, but a little more sattva is present in Akasha, a little less sattva in air, more rajas maybe in fire, and more tamas in water, and much more tamas in earth, like that. From subtle to gross, from more sattvic to less sattvic to rajasic to tamasic. And all of it is mostly tamasic. So that's the idea. And where do you get all these? By the rule that by seeing the effect, we can make some inference about the cause. Effect is material world, cause is Maya. 59. Etanyeva sukshma bhutani tanmatrani apanchikritani chochante. These 5, they're called subtle matter, rudimentary tanmatras, and uncompounded apanchikrita elements. Important point here. These are some terms have been introduced. We'll keep coming across these terms when we read the Upanishads and the commentaries of the Upanishads. 3 terms have been introduced. Sukshma bhuta, subtle matter. The 5 elements are called panchabhuta. Space, air, fire, water, earth. But all of them, they have their subtler forms, which are what has just been produced. The 5 subtle elements have been produced. And so these are called subtle matter, subtle elements. Bhuta, element. 5 subtle elements. Sukshma bhuta. Another name, tanmatra. Tanmatra means that much alone. So Akasha is subtle space alone. Vayu is subtle air alone. Like in that sense. That's the, again and again we will come across this term, tanmatra. Tanmatra. So this word tanmatra has been introduced. It means the 5 subtle elements. Another name given to the same 5 elements is apanchikritani chochante, uncompounded. Why uncompounded? We will see. These 5 will be mixed up in certain proportions to produce the actual material world which we are seeing right now. The material world which we see around us is actually a compound, a mixture of these 5. In the so-called space, there is the one which we are seeing now, which we inhabit now. There is actually space and air and fire and water and earth all mixed up in certain proportion. So also in the air, so also in the fire, so it's in the water and earth. So it's all 5 are actually mixed up in certain proportions. But right now, they're not mixed up. They're uncompounded. So they are called apanchikrita. Just names. Don't bother too much about it. Just we are introduced to the names. Then number 60. Etebhya sukshma sharirani sthula bhutani chotpadyante. From these subtle elements are produced subtle bodies and gross elements. So the question will be, all right, we get all these things, but what's the point? What are we leading up to? What good do these things do us? So two kinds of things will be produced from this. We are leading up to the production of subtle bodies. What are subtle bodies? Nothing occult here, nothing very strange or spooky. Subtle bodies, we are always experiencing subtle bodies. What are subtle bodies? Thoughts, feelings, perceptions, emotions, ideas, our whole personality, and the physiological activity which keeps the physical body alive. So prana and antakarana, this is called subtle body. The vitality and also the mind and its activities. Why do you call them subtle body? Notice, in our experience of the body, we have 2 kinds of experiences. One is of a physical body. Here, I can see the physical body. When you count the 61 people here, 61 physical bodies can be counted. But in each of these physical bodies, there is a subtle aspect, a first person experienced aspect which is available only to you, the consciousness. No doctor, no scientist can discover that. If a doctor or a physiologist explores your physical body, what will they find? They will find more of the physical body only. They will find skin and bones and muscles and tissue and organs and electrical activity in the brains and biochemical activity in throughout the body. That's all. They will find more and more physical matter and physical processes. So, where is the person? Where are the thoughts, feelings, emotions? Where is what we all experience as ourselves, our own personality constituents? This is what is being called a subtle body. Mind and life, let's put it in a very broad sense. Prana and antakarana, all of it put together, we will see. So those ones will be built out of the 5 subtle elements. That's where this is leading. That's one very important thing. Another important thing is the 5 subtle elements will be used to build up the 5 physical or gross elements out of which the entire physical universe will be built. So 2 kinds of products are going to emerge from this process. It's still very much work in process. One product will be our own internal bodies, our subtle bodies. And the second product will be the physical elements out of which physical universe and our physical bodies also will be built up eventually. Okay, let me quickly see the activity in the chat and answer any questions which have come. Pranav says, oh, what kind of student were you at Harvard? This is my comment, my first question at the beginning. I guess front bencher and asking lots of questions. You are absolutely right. So the professors had to tell me to stop. Let's hear from others, and then I had something to say. But mostly in the classes dealing with the Gita or with the Upanishads, which I took, in many of the other classes, even in the other classes, I did tend to talk a lot. Then sometimes it's hard not to be shy or intimidated with so many intellectuals in the class. Don't be intimidated. We are all talking about what is real and present to all of us. It's not about anything abstract. It's talking about your own reality. You are Brahman. You are the absolute reality of the universe. We're talking about that, making a self-discovery. It doesn't matter who else is in the class. Regarding Brahman, Sri Krishnamurti says, regarding Brahman limited by a part of Maya is the Jiva. Is the part of Maya the same as the subtle body of a human? No. Maya is the causal body. So 3 kinds of bodies. Physical body here, this one. Subtle body, look inside, immediately you will feel thoughts, feelings, emotions, subtle body. Beyond that, what do you experience in deep sleep? Neither physical body nor subtle body. But there is something, some limiting factor. You don't realize that I am Brahman in deep sleep. That limiting factor is called the Anandamaya Kosha. It is the causal body, not casual body, causal body, Karana Sharira. And that's part of Maya. That's the tiny part of Maya which makes Brahman into each of us, separate, as if appearing as separate little jivas. Girish. Spider web analogy sounds more like Vishishtadvaita, Spinoza like. Yes, but actually you have to see that here the point is, every example has a point. So here the point is that give me an example where the cause is both efficient cause and material cause at the same time. See, the classic example in ancient times would be a potter and clay. So the potter is different, the clay is different, and the potter shapes the clay into a pot, the product pot. So the material cause of the pot is clay, and the efficient cause of the pot is potter. And potter and clay are not the same thing. Potter doesn't turn into a pot, thank God. And carpenter doesn't turn into a table. So usually they are different. Now when you ask, what is the cause of this universe? So one ancient cosmology was the Nyaya cosmology. Actually pretty modern in the way they think about it. They're saying that eternally space exists, and what exists are free floating atoms. That's their exact language, free floating atoms. Imagine, thousands of years ago, free floating atoms and space exists. And Ishvara, God is there. So by the will of God, these atoms combine together into the physical universe, which in principle is a pretty modern cosmology. Anyway, I mean, of course, God is not part of the modern cosmology, but the idea of matter and energy existing, of space existing, and then combining to form this entire universe is pretty modern, actually. But there, notice, the atoms are separate, God is separate. So efficient cause, material cause are separate. Vedanta does not agree. Vedanta says material cause and efficient cause are the same with Brahman. So give me an example. So the example is spider example. Vishishtadvaita would use that example in a different way. Notice the web emerges from the body of the spider. You can say it's a part of the spider. In that sense, the entire universe emerges from Brahman, is a modification of a part of Brahman. So that is Vishishtadvaita. But Advaita uses only to show that the one thing can be both Nimitta Karana, Upadana Karana together. So Rick has shared a YouTube presentation, 5 elements with modern physics trying to reconcile. Okay, so I also mentioned John Dobson, who was an astronomer, who is astrophysicist, astronomer, who used to stay in his last years in our Vedanta Society at Hollywood. He was a disciple of Swami Ashokanandji. He actually wrote books about trying to reconcile the 5 elements with, map it onto modern cosmology. As I said, my perspective is, don't try to do that. I mean, it's an interesting exercise, but maybe you need not do that. If you are interested in getting a better understanding of the modern cosmos, just go into modern cosmology. Just read modern physics and cosmology. Rodrigo, what is the correspondence of Sadyojatava, Ishvara, and the 5 elements? That you'll have to ask a Tantra expert who is very sophisticated. Then the example you gave about dreaming and seeing the chair table is similar to Vishnu dreaming a planet. Exactly. That's the whole idea of Vishnu, who's a bit of a couch potato, lying down and dreaming. And the dream of Vishnu is this entire universe. If Maya, Nijjari is asking, Maya doesn't have its own character without Brahman. Character means existence. How would Brahman use the tamasic power of Maya to project the universe? I'm not very sure. Nijjari, would you like to unmute yourself and ask this question?
Namaste, Swamiji. Yeah, I wasn't sure if Maya by itself is, it doesn't exist without Brahman, right?
Yes. In Advaita Vedanta, yes.
Right. And maybe I misheard, but I thought you said Brahman takes the tamasic character or power of Maya to project Akash.
You can put it that way. What the exact text was, the tamasic aspect of the projecting power of Maya is the source of Akasha. Yes. But yes, Saguna Brahman does that. Ishvara.
Are you referring to Brahman as Ishvara here?
As Ishvara. Yes. Whenever you're talking about creation of the universe, you're always talking about Ishvara, Saguna Brahman.
Okay. Thank you.
Remember that always. Saguna Brahman, Ishvara, God is the creator, preserver, destroyer of the universe. The absolute has no connection with the universe. There's no universe there at all because it's an appearance. Pranav is saying, Maharaj, it's been a very recent observation for me, but I'm amazed how important fundamental the 5 element cosmology is in Hindu teaching across subject areas in philosophy, Ayurveda, Vastu Shastra. So he even stumbled upon a Vastu Sutra Upanishad. Correct. You're right. That is why that one senior Swami warned me against abandoning the 5 element cosmology. You're abandoning a very key component of trying to explain how one comes from the many comes from the one, and also the way back from the many to the one. So let's just keep it as it is and learn the way it is being taught. I'm just saying from a very modern scientific perspective. So if you have to go to a scientist, you couldn't persuade him to accept 5 elements and things like that. The advantage of Advaita Vedanta is you can still accept Advaita Vedanta and pursue it as a spiritual path without having to accept 5 elements and a universe made from 5 elements. Not necessary, because it's just explanatory. It's a way of explaining things. Rama is saying, through the tanmatras created from consciousness, though the tanmatras created from consciousness is subtle in nature, are they tamasic pradhanam or only the gross elements of tamasic? The subtle matters are also tamasa pradhanam, but there are variations. There are variations. So the parts which will be used to create our minds are more sattvic than the parts which are used to create, say, other components of the subtle body and so on. Prabir Basu is asking, Ishvara is not the ultimate reality, but one doesn't have Advaita knowledge. And that's what you mean? Without the grace of Ishvara. Correct, that is true. Within this world of Maya, Ishvara, Jiva, Jagat, the Jiva is entirely dependent on Ishvara. This we must realize. If as long as you stick to your Jiva identity, you must accept Ishvara. I was reading in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna that Sri Ramakrishna asks Keshab, Keshab, is it true that your people of Calcutta, educated people, they don't believe in God? And then he gives a very telling example, a little story. The gentleman in Bengali says, Babu is coming back home and he's going up the stairs and suddenly he feels a pain in the side and he says, oh, what is this? Call the doctor, call the doctor. And by the time the doctor comes, the story is over. The Babu has died. And these are the people who do not believe in God. This is what Sri Ramakrishna says. These are the people who dare to doubt the existence of God. What he means thereby is, we have really no idea how helpless we are. We are totally helpless in this samsara. For our very existence, for our very normal frame of mind, for our ability to function in this world. So what happens in samsara, in family, in job, and in the world, as you see coronavirus and everything, at one moment, everything can collapse for us. We are totally and completely dependent on God. We just don't realize it. So as far as your jiva nature is concerned, you're dependent on God, and one should recognize that. Just like Brahman, each individual have three gunas. I will not go into that. We are creating our own universe, all right. That's something called Jiva Srishti, but it's not right now not relevant. I'm curious how Sri Ramakrishna's teachings eventually led us to studying Advaita Vedanta, even though Sri Ramakrishna was so bhakti focused. Not necessarily that he was bhakti focused. He also, if you look at the Gospel of Ramakrishna itself, he talks so much about Vedanta. And remember, so this is a tradition coming down to us from Vivekananda and the other direct disciples, who are all Vedantic monks. Sri Ramakrishna himself was initiated into Advaita Vedanta by Totapuri. So Advaita Vedanta, in fact, is a central stream of thought flowing through Sri Ramakrishna. If you ask, so what tradition do you belong to? I belong to the 10 orders of Vedantic monks initiated by Shankaracharya, started by Adi Shankaracharya, the great commentator, non-dualistic commentator on the Upanishads, Gita, Brahma Sutras. And that comes to us through Vivekananda, through Sri Ramakrishna himself. His guru, Vedantic guru, was Totapuri. So there's a non-dualistic lineage running through us. Remember, it's the Vedanta Society of New York. So, yes. Suchitra says, Sankhya says that the tanmatras come from Rajas as dynamic element along with Tamas. Rajas also implied in Sattva, Rajas, Tamas are all part of Maya, and they're all part of the 5 elements which are produced from Maya. All right. I think there's a hand up. Anandi is asking a question.
Namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste.
So the question is what Nirjari also asked, somebody else also asked, if the qualities of the cause are reflected in the qualities of the effect.
Yes.
And we say Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma.
Yes.
And we also say Nimitta Karana, Upadana Karana are the same.
Yes.
Why is it that Brahman is so full of tamasic qualities in this universe? Why is there not a preponderance of sattva or ananda?
Wait. Satchidananda, Satyam, Jnanam, Anantam, Brahma. Those are not the qualities of Brahman. They are Brahman.
They are.
Yes. And Sattva, Rajas and Tamas are the constituents of Maya.
But so, why is Maya full of tamas and not full of sattva?
No, but it is there. Sattva is there. We will see. Sattva will be there in our minds, in our perceptions. More sattva will be there. Physical bodies, more tamas is there. Exactly as we experience the world. We experience part of it as being solid, inert matter, part of it as being aware, thought, feeling, emotion. So you have to make those distinctions. But then what about Brahman? What about existence, consciousness, bliss? That also should be available to us, because this universe is, after all, nothing other than Brahman, and that is available to us. I exist, you exist, all this exists. All our experience is possible because of consciousness, and our entire life is a drive towards fulfillment, which shows the Anand aspect. So we do not want to die, because it shows that we are Sat. We want to know, we don't want to be ignorant. It shows that we are Chit, and we want fulfillment above all things in life, and that shows our Ananda nature. So Satchidananda is shining through. Just imagine, snake and the rope. So certain aspects of the rope are still visible in the snake. Rope exists, we feel snake is, but the isness belongs to rope, not to the snake.
But why is there still more tamas than sattvic in the world, in the universe that we see? We tend to see more tamasic. We acknowledge by all these texts that there is more tamasic. So why is there not more sattva?
There is, depending on what we see. Actually, what we are seeing is exactly in right proportion. We see matter as more tamasic. We see mind as more sattvic. We see a dull person, there's a tamasic person, but we see someone like Sri Ramakrishna or like Vivekananda, full of sattva. So all the varieties are seen, and everything has its own use. You said we don't think that tamas is bad. Actually, without tamas, physical matter would not exist. From the cosmology is such that inert, dull, dead matter would not exist without tamas. So that is the limit of creation. From consciousness, through sattva, through rajas, through tamas, we have come down to absolutely solid material creation. So there is inertness, there is dynamism, and there is awareness. All of it is there.
Thank you.
But if you push the question too far, there are interesting stories. So when the universe was first created, little stories from the Puranas. So first universe was created, Brahma, who is given, Vishnu dreams it up, but Vishnu gives the contract to Brahma. Brahma is the subcontractor. So Brahma will now create the universe. But Brahma thought, let's do a good job. Let's create, as Anandi said, very sattvic universe. Let's create a sattvic universe. The first creations he created, the Rishi Putras, who were very sattvic. They were manifested straight away. The moment they came into being as persons, these first perfect beings, they thought, what is this? Who are we? Where are we? Oh, this is Brahman. I am Brahman. Let's sit in meditation, realize we are Brahman. Finished. Universe was finished in one cycle itself. Brahma thought this did not work. I need more. You need more spices, more rajas, more tamas. Then only it will be tasty. Otherwise, within sattvic food is among the most tasteless food will be sattvic food. I mean, I'm joking only, but so you need more spices to make the once you put in tamas, more rajas, the universe is continuing from that time onwards now, nicely humming along. Is there a sequence? Kishore Acharya is asking. It's an interesting question. The way it is going, it seems there is a sequence. Brahman, Maya, Ishvara, and then the 5 elements are being produced. Jiva is produced, the 5 elements are produced, and subtle body, then physical body, causal body, subtle body, physical body. There seems to be a sequence, krama, from subtle to gross, one after another. So is it like that? 2 answers are there. From the Upanishads, if you see, it will seem that yes, that there is a sequence. First this will happen, then this will happen, then this will happen, one after another. And that's the way this book has been written also, just the way it is taught. But there is a more radical presentation of non-dualism, which is Drishti Shrishti Vada, which says it all happens at once. And Holy Mother, Ma Sharada, was once asked this. And quite interestingly, Ma Sharada says she took the Drishti Shrishti Vada approach. She said, it is not like that, my son. It all happens at once. How do you understand that? How is that? That sounds so strange. Even in the world we see, in this universe, we see evolution. Science gives us a krama, a sequence. From Big Bang till now, over billions of years, so many things have happened in a particular sequence. It didn't just come like that. So the waking world will not help us, but the dream world helps us to understand how. If you look at our dream world, suddenly I dream that I'm going to walking down the street and I meet you and we talk. And so in the dream world was there first big bang, and then the universe was created, and then the earth, and then life evolved, and then New York was created, then we were born, and then I walked down the street and then I met you. What did that happen? Or the whole thing appeared at once in the dream? So the whole thing appeared at once. That's Drishti Shrishti Vada. That's another way of looking at it. But anyway, that's a different approach. This approach is sequential, one after another. Sky has least tamas with descending order, and earth has most tamas. Correct. Right. So this is from the text itself. Shekhar and Kiran?
Yeah, namaste, Swamiji.
Namaste.
So I have a question related to the observer and the observed. So can we say, like, from the point of view of Jiva and Ishvara, there is an observer, so there is the observed universe. But from Brahman point of view, there is no such thing as observation. So Brahman only remains, there is no universe or world.
Yes, you can say that. The observer and observed is there only when you're talking about subject-object. When there is already a split, I am experiencing something separately. So one Uttarakhand sadhu put it so beautifully. What is Satchidananda? I will tell you in Hindi and translate into English. Jahan aadhar aadheya ek ho, wo sat hai. Where the ground, and there is no translation for aadhar aadheya. Supporter and supported, container and contained. I'll explain later. Where container and contained are one, supporter supported are one, that is sat. Jahan gyata geya ek ho, wo chit hai. Where the knower and the known, observer and observed are one, that is called chit, consciousness. And jahan bhokta bhogya ek ho, wo anand hai. Where the enjoyer and enjoyed are one, that is called ananda. What does it mean? See, usually, first one, aadhar adheya. Basically, aadhar means support, ground. Adheya means that which is put on the ground, one on top of the other. Or pot, in which water is kept. Pot is the adhara and water is the adheya. Usually they are different. This is no, adhara and adheya are actually one. Same thing. How? It is possible. When you look at something like clay and pot, water and wave, what is the adhara there? The basis, clay. And what is there in that clay? Pot. But there in that clay does not mean the clay is there and that one pot is kept. The pot is a name and a form and a function imposed on, superimposed on, the same superimposition, superimposed on clay. Wave is a name and a form and a function superimposed on water. Without the clay, no pot. Without the water, no wave. Now notice, in this case, clay and pot are one reality. Water and wave are one reality. It's not that one thing has been kept in another, though they seem to be different. Pot is, because we have two names, clay is one name, pot is another name. So you think that pot is something in the clay or made out of clay. No, clay is the only reality there. So in that sense, if you look at the universe, Sat is the only reality. What do we normally see? Everything exists. So it's existence is the ground and everything is there are things which exist. But here, things which exist and existence are one reality. What is that one reality? Existence. That is Sat. So every existing thing is an appearance in existence. Existence with a capital E. Just like every pot, you can say, is a name and a form and a function imposed upon clay. Every being in this universe, whatever exists in this universe, is a name and a form and a function imposed upon existence. And that existence you are. That is Sat. What is Chit, consciousness? Normally, what do you think about consciousness? Knower and known. As she said, experiencer and observer and observed. I am the reader, book is the read. I am the knower, this is known. You are the knower, and what I am saying is known. You're looking at me and hearing my voice. What you are seeing and what you are hearing is the known, and you are the knower. Two are different. Usually the two are different. Knowledge works when knower and known are different. Knower and known are not the same. And yet, Imagine dreams. In the dream, you're walking along and looking at people, enjoying a cup of coffee. But when you wake up, the people you met, the cup of coffee you enjoyed, and the body which you had in the dream, they're all nothing apart from you, the dreamer, the dreamer's mind. The knower, the actual knower, and what it knew in the dream. What it knew in the dream is nothing other than the knower. Objects in the dream are nothing other than the dreaming mind. They are all superimpositions, name, form, and function superimposed upon one mind, which is the dreamer's mind. Similarly, that's the dream example. Similarly, in this case, there's one consciousness, you. And in you, whatever you know, they're appearing in you. They're not different from you. Knower and known are one. Whatever you know, it seems that I am the knower, this is something known, and they're different from me, they exist apart from me. No, they don't. They exist in you, the consciousness. They're appearing in you, the consciousness. Lamp, a computer, table, names, lamp, computer, table. Forms and activities. Lamp illumines, computer connects me to you, table supports the computer. But they are all in my consciousness. They appear to my consciousness, they are in my consciousness, they are nothing different from my consciousness. That is called chit. Jnata, Genya, Ek Ho Jahan. See, all this I'm explaining, he just said in one sentence. And that chit, that consciousness you are. What is the mistake we make? We think that there are existing things and I am one existing thing. But Vedanta tells you there is existence in which appears all existing things, and you are that existence. What mistake do we make? We think we are the knower and there are many things we know. Vedanta says, no, no, you are consciousness itself, in which appears knower and known. And that consciousness you are. Jahan bhokta bhogya ek ho. Normally when we enjoy bliss, happiness, fulfillment, what do we think? Here are the things we enjoy. My favorite food, my favorite book, my favorite person, activity, hobby, all of these things are I enjoy. I am the enjoyer. This is what we think. They're separate. Because they're separate, I have spent my lifetime pursuing those things and trying to get them and trying to keep them. I'm eager to get them, scared of losing them, and working hard to maintain them. And what Vedanta says is that you, the enjoyer, and what you enjoy, you are one and the same thing. Example, the story of Princess of Kashi. I will not repeat it here. The prince thought that the Princess of Kashi was a separate person. He wanted to marry her. But he realized the picture he had seen was his own picture. He had forgotten it. As a kid, he had been painted. He had worn a dress of a princess and he had been painted at that. You know the story. I have told the story. So there the enjoyer and the enjoyed, the lover and the beloved are one reality. What he loves is not different from him. Is he himself in another form. Similarly, Ananda is that not where one enjoys another thing, where the enjoyer and enjoyed, the lover and the beloved are one reality. That is Ananda. One more clue. The clue for this, understanding this, the Adhara Adheya is one, and that is Sat. That understanding we get from the waking world. Jagrat Prapancha. It's a clue. That the seer and the seen, the knower and the known are one reality, and that is Chit. That understanding we get from our dream experience. Then the enjoyer and the enjoyed, Bhokta Bhogya, are one, and that is Ananda. That experience we get from the understanding we get from deep sleep experience. What the waking experience teaches us is it's an ocean of existence. What the dream experience teaches us is it is just one awareness. And what the deep sleep experience teaches us is it is abheda, there is no difference. It is the same, one uniform sameness everywhere. The delight is it appears as different. Now you can enjoy it. After understanding this also, come back. See, husband, wife, house, father, mother, children, world, problems, disease, COVID, pain, suffering, hospital, recovery, death. All of it is appearing and disappearing in you, the limitless Satyam Jnanam Anantam Brahma. You are that. Okay. That's a good, very high and nice theme to end upon. All this I explained, and that sadhu just said, ये सत क्या है जहां आधार आधे एक हो वो सत है, ये चित क्या है जहां ज्ञाता ज्ञेय एक हो वो चित है, ये आनंद क्या है जहां भोक्ता भोग्य एक हो वो आनंद है. Just one sentence. Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ram Krishna Arpanamastu.